for cold, hard sports talk with your hosts, Ty Gore, Matt Barrett, and Jake Woods.
Alrighty, boys, we are here with our guest, Bert Malloy. Like we said a couple weeks ago, we were looking to get someone from the Australian Ice Hockey League, and we've got one of the best, captain of the Newcastle North Stars, and just a true legend of the Australian game. Bert, how's it going?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. This is pretty cool. I'm always happy to talk some hockey, and share a few stories along the way.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it here. First, I just want to talk about a bit of your personal history. You have dual American and Australian eligibility here. You played your junior hockey in the U.S., ended up playing NCAA at Lebanon Valley College, and then you headed to Australia. So just talk about yourself personally. Do you have family in Australia, or was it like citizenship you got later on?
No, so finished college in 2009, played hockey and baseball there. And then when I got out of school, it was like the financial crisis. There were no jobs anywhere, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was play hockey. So I actually signed a contract to play in Italy, trained my balls off for a summer, and then turns out my agent wound up in jail and there was no deal. So it kind of kicked around the semi-pro circuit a little bit, and then come around Christmas time, I saw a buddy's Facebook photos that was out here previously playing hockey. And I sent a message being like, hey man, what do I got to do? Who do I got to talk to? And sure enough, got the invite. And that was 2010. I came out here and almost come up to 11 years. Been a wild ride.
Insane. A truly insane start. I don't think I've heard of someone who was working out a contract in Italy before their agent got arrested. So that is definitely a first. And,
yeah, like I was a scumbag.
Yeah, literally. Insane. So let's just talk a little bit about your time. You're from Connecticut, played with Hartford Junior Wolfpack there. And even going back to your time as a junior, something that, became a common trend in your career, you wore the C there. What really do you think, like right from the start of your career, led to you constantly being the captain of these teams?
I think it just comes down to leading by example. Kind of always played like a face first, what we kind of call hard dick hockey. So I think it was just a common trend that it carried me through the years, and right, for sure.
So you finished up your junior, you end up going to Lebanon Valley College there, spent, I believe, 4 years there. Once again, 2 of those years wearing the C. Wrapped up your time in college, and then you headed over to the Australian League. So when you first got your start over there, we saw here that you're with this rogue league, you were calling it? Yeah,
so it was the Australian International Ice Hockey Cup, right? So when I was out here, it was like the second year in existence. And really what it was, the guy who organized it, put it all together, would invite, like, say, 20 imports from all over the world. And we lived together for 3 months. It was like an absolute shit show. I was lucky enough to get work at the rink full time. So I was living on the beach, coaching hockey, driving the Zamboni. It was a dream, dude, at that time. And I met some friends from all over the world, a bunch of Finns, Germans, Czechs, Slovaks. And at that time, it was, like I said, 3 months between 2 different rinks. Here on the Central Coast, I lived like an hour north of Sydney, an hour south of Newcastle. And there were 4 teams comprised of all these scattered imports. It was wild. And then, like, the night before the last game, girl was now my wife, got a couple kids living here. And yeah, that was kind of the start of it all. Never would have thought I'd still be in Australia. It was just kind of like, it was supposed to be a 3-month season to kind of wrap up a hockey career, kind of scratch that final itch before settling down and getting like a big boy job,
And you just haven't looked back and play hockey in Australia for a decade, eh?
No, well, I kind of get the best of both worlds here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the past years, I mean, obviously COVID has interrupted everything, but it's like 28 game season where I can work full time during the week and provide for family, and we play hockey in the weekends. We play like a doubleheader Saturday, Sunday, and then go back to work on Monday. So it's one of those things where I'll do it as long as I can. But man, I was on the back nine of my career before I even came to Australia, and it just kind of elongated it. I don't think I can get much more out of the game. So it's pretty cool, man. It's a national league here, so we fly to like Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide, Canberra. There used to be a team on the Gold Coast in Surfers Paradise. The town's literally called Surfers Paradise. It's wild. So it's a pretty awesome way to see the country, traveling around with the boys.
I want to go back to your college days. You said you were a dual sport athlete. You played baseball there as well. So just were kind of one of those guys who just tried to play every sport, and you just happened to, work hard and be able to do both.
Yeah. In high school, I played football, hockey, baseball until I was playing too much junior hockey and kind of had to give that up. But I played much baseball growing up as I did hockey. I was actually going to pursue baseball full time in university, and then I backed out right before I was supposed to go to Coastal Carolina, and took the year, played juniors, and found a spot at Lebanon Valley College where I could play both, which is awesome because our home rink was Hershey Park Arena, where it's like old barn where the Bears used to play right next to where they play now, and the baseball field is gorgeous too, brick all the way around. It was like the best of both worlds. So our hockey team was absolutely brutal. Went 0 for my senior year, 0-28, whatever it was. But our baseball team was pretty awesome. So it was a nice change of pace, and even in the fall time while all the boys are running laps and doing, preseason training, I'm shagging balls in the outfield watching the field. It was pretty awesome.
All right. So then when you first started in the Australian Ice Hockey League, that's currently the big league in Australia, you were playing in Sydney with the Ice Dogs. Just tell us about like the arenas you're playing in, the fans, like how big is hockey in Australia?
Yeah. All right. So has anybody here been to Australia before?
Never.
Not me.
All right. Well, you got that to look forward to because this place is awesome. But the rink that I was playing at in Sydney, it was like an hour and a half each way. It was, it was a hike. And a lot of the rinks down here don't have glass. They have like netting that's pulled tight, right? So our home rink was just a little barn, and because there's no glass, there's fans literally just on the other side of all the netting. It's pretty wild. So every rink has kind of their own personality in a sense. We played a really tough, hard style of hockey with the Ice Dogs that nobody wanted to play against us, like especially on Sundays, and we just wear teams down. And then, I think I was there 2011, 12, 13, 14, maybe something like that. Won a cup, had some success there, and then made the move up to Newcastle just because it was closer, just easier for my family, really.
And honestly, another trend like we've seen all throughout your career, the last 2 years you were with Sydney, you were the captain again. We were told, we interviewed another athlete with some AIHL experience. We were told to ask you about Rob the Jungle Man Hazelhurst.
Oh, Hazelnuts. Yeah, he's like the closest thing to Tarzan you'll ever meet. What a guy. He's another dual citizen. I think his mother played field hockey for Canada and maybe Australia too. But yeah, one of those guys that just everybody loves when he's on your team and everybody hates to play against. He's a little rat out there throwing hip checks left and right. Who did you ask that? Who's the common thread there?
Peter DeSalvo.
Oh yeah, he's a character in himself, huh?
Yeah. Probably what will it be? Maybe a week after his interview, this one's gonna come out. So yeah,
he's a good dude. Hell of a goaltender.
Yeah.
made the most ridiculous save on me, I don't know, a couple years ago. It just haunts my nightmares.
So you mentioned they're just talking about having the dual representation there. Your first year with Newcastle was also the first time you ended up representing Australia. Can you talk a little bit about like first, like what had to go into for you to be able to represent Australia, and then just talk what it was like, playing at a world stage, playing at a world championship.
Yeah, again, it was something I never really foresaw. But when I first got here, started playing with the Dogs, a lot of those guys were playing with the national team, which was really cool somehow. And then just kind of started talking to the right people, and met the requirements I needed for my citizenship, criteria. So the first year was wild. It was in Iceland, in Reykjavik, Iceland, which is so cool in itself. But it was also cool in the fact that a lot of my family from the States, from the East Coast of the States, it's like a 3-hour flight, whatever it is, from Boston or New York or even Hartford. So I got to, wear the jersey in front of all my family at home. We got smoked that tournament, unfortunately. Our goalie went down like the day before the first game, and I think 3 of the 5 games we let in the first shot. So we're just chasing our tail. Got relegated, but yeah, it's a different kind of pride that I had never felt before. We certainly have a lot to play for wearing the jersey, and made some of the best friends in the world through that team. Because like we go away for 3 weeks. We go to training camp for over a week, play some exhibition games. That year was in Varamäki, Finland, which is like their Olympic training center, which is pretty cool. And then a week in Iceland, and then right back to Australia, and we start our season. So the guys that you become brothers with for 3 weeks, you come back right into battle with them when we get back here.
It almost works as a bit of like a training camp for you guys for your season anyway, I guess, as you guys are out there for 3 weeks playing high level hockey and like against some of the best teams at that level. Like it just works as a training camp almost, eh?
Absolutely. It really does. And you come back with maybe a sense of confidence too. You trust your edges a bit more. Everything just kind of comes together. But in saying that, like we come into those world championships, I think at a disadvantage, because everybody else is coming out of their season, right? They're fine tuned, whereas we're coming out of summer. We hadn't played games since end of August or September. So it's difficult to really match that game speed through the training. And then once you get there, man, it happens so quick. Pretty wild.
So now, if I'm counting right, just going off elite prospects here, 5 times now you've represented Australia at the national level. Do you remember if any one of those tournaments stands out more than the rest?
Everyone's been different, right? So for example, Iceland, first time we're in the kicked it all up. However, we sucked. We got relegated. The next year we dropped down to whatever 2B, I think it is, and that's in Mexico City, which is wild in itself. Maybe the best atmosphere I've ever played in was playing in Mexico City on that first night. The place was crazy, dude. And overtime game winner in front of a couple thousand screaming Mexicans is pretty wild. But Mexico City in itself, like getting police escorted with guns and turrets, and who else? We played North Korea there.
Wow,
wild! I think we won like 22-1. And these dudes are, it was a different experience. It just odd units. We stayed in the same hotel with them, and this is like at the same time that what was the Seth Rogen and what's his name? The
James
interview
Franco?
that came out, North. Yeah. So they had taken like all the TVs off their walls, and we ate with them. They had the rations. Last night they're all drinking tequila in wine glasses. We would their gear was all really old and whatnot, so we gave them like tape and laces and sticks, and we had them. And then 3 o'clock in the morning, they're showing up at our door like more.
wow.
Like, hard to give. Get out of here. Scram,
Insane.
So that was Mexico. From there we went to Romania. Won silver there. And then Holland was awesome. We got silver there. Serbia, I had a kid like 2 weeks before the tournament started. I had backed out last minute, and then one of my buddies broke his hand, and they called of the night before the first game. They're like, "Hey, can you get on a flight like now?" And I looked at my wife, and I was like, "She's like, go, yeah, you got to go." So left my wife, my 2-week-old, and my kids at home, unfortunately. But got there. And stepped on the ice team, my first shift. Pretty good feeling. And then last year was supposed to be in Croatia. They got canceled due to COVID. This year was supposed to be in Beijing. That got canceled. But that would have been really cool because it would have been like a dress rehearsal using all the Olympic facilities and living in the what's to be Olympic Village. But yeah, that got canceled. So who knows? Hopefully I can kind of hang them up on a world championship maybe next year. We'll see.
So going to those world championships, like, you know, you're playing Mexico and like Iceland and just all these countries that like don't seem like hockey countries, but like you said, like Mexico was just wild. Like how cool is that to just like see these different countries with all these different kinds of fans? Hey.
Yeah, it's pretty cool everywhere you go because, you know, unlike maybe say Americans, everybody kind of likes Australians too, so we're treated really well. But again, like our league, what a way to see the world. Usually we'll have a week-long training camp in say Czech or Finland before we go to the tournament. So yeah, it's an awesome opportunity, man. I'm so very fortunate to be involved in it all.
So then back in the AIHL, you moved to Newcastle. That took you only one season before you got the C on your jersey again, where you've been wearing the C ever since. And just what was the difference in just in hockey between Newcastle and Sydney? How did the teams play any different?
Can you hear me? Just break it up a little bit.
Oh
yeah. Sorry, a little frozen there. I'll repeat the question here. Are you good? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So like we said, you moved from Sydney to Newcastle. That one, it only took you 1 year before you got the C that you've worn ever since. And can you just talk a little? So was different than the hockey in Sydney?
Yeah, you know, the Ice Dogs and North Stars were kind of rival teams for the most part, completely different styles. The Ice Dogs kind of, like I said, in your face, rough and tumble, whereas the North Stars are a bit more open and European. So yeah, brand of hockey, larger ice surface in Newcastle. Ice is really fast, really good. And yeah, they kind of just took me in with open arms, fortunately. That first year, the captain was Rob Stark, who's like a legend in the game. He moved back. He's in camp. His in the rafters in our rink. So he left a pretty big void, and fortunately I was able to fill that, or I hope I was. So yeah.
And then just in general too, comparing to your junior and college hockey in the States, is the game any different in Australia?
And I think I've kind of lived through like a complete revolution in the game. You know, I'm growing up playing junior. My junior coach was Bob Crawford, and he's just like as old time hockey as you get, right? Brothers Mark Crawford. And yeah, since then, all the clutching and grabbing and fighting is kind of gonzo now, and it's more of an international game. So I think the game in general has just changed, and the rules changed as well. So I don't really know where I was going with that, but I've just seen an overall change in the gameplay in the last 20 years.
And what's the level like? Just comparing it to playing D3 hockey in college and playing junior growing up in Connecticut.
Yeah, I'd say it's similar to D3. It's probably better than most people would expect. And now the level of imports that are coming out here, there's like, NHL draft picks who, I mean, you kind of have to come out with like major junior or NCAA experience. So that has really helped develop a lot of the local talent as well. But there's just such a divide between the first and fourth lines. A lot of teams win and carry success here just due to their overall depth, just wear teams down by the end of the year.
So, one more question I have about the Australian League. So, you played down there for nearly a decade. Is there one guy in particular who you found hardest to play against, who always was just either a pest or just insanely skilled and caused your team problems night in, night
out? Yeah, a guy by the name of Joey Hughes. You can look up his elite prospects now. He's arguably one of the best hockey players of all time, because there's another guy, Greg Oddie, who's like the Wayne Gretzky of Australia. He has numbers that nobody will ever touch. So look those guys up as well. But yeah, Joey and I have battled over the years. Never really got to know him. People speak really highly of him, but a guy that, scores a lot of goals, but can be a pest. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I think he's won more cups than anybody else down here. And have you guys seen the cup? Have you seen the Goodall Cup trophy for the AIHL?
No, we haven't.
I don't believe so.
Dude, check this out. I think it's been around since 1909. It's one of the oldest trophies in hockey history. So my father was down here. The original one is in the Hall of Fame in Toronto. My dad was down here around Christmas a couple years ago, and I got a phone call from my buddy who was like, "Hey, where's your blue jersey?" And this is after we won my second cup in Newcastle. I'm like, I don't know, my closet. Why? I said, "Oh, I just got a call from Toronto. They want it." It's like, who wants it in Toronto? The Hall of Fame, right? So my home jersey from, I think, 2016 was hanging in the Hall of Fame in like an international exhibit, and now it's in the archives somewhere. So my parents went and saw it. People went and took pictures with it, and now it's somewhere in there. I don't know. Maybe I'll get there someday to take a look.
That's crazy. Wow.
What's it like to win those titles there? And like, I'm looking at the trophy right now. That thing's freaking massive.
Dude, it's
and
awesome.
Like, that's wild. Like, what's it like to win a title there? Like, how crazy are those parties? Just like, how much fun is that to win there?
Pretty fun, man. Pretty fun. And, coming off a brutal college career, I'd never really won anything. So my first year, 2013, playing with the Dogs, had an awesome team, man. We were unstoppable from the beginning of the year. One of those teams where it's like you going into the third period, down 2 goals, no worries. We got this. Hoist out there, man, I thought I broke my leg first shift. So it's like a 2-day format. 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3 on the Saturday, and the winners play Sunday.
Oh, okay.
I thought I broke my leg in the first game, gutted it out, lifted the cup, and yeah, what a feeling, man. Lifting that mug over your head. Doesn't matter the level. It doesn't matter, where you are. Any championship feels pretty good on a national stage, and I mean, really, it's a national championship. So, yeah, pretty proud.
How have they all kind of differed for you? Like, you've won 3 times. How have they sort of changed for you? Obviously 2 different teams, but how have they sort of, differed in what they kind of meant?
Yeah, each one is just a different story, man. Different. The first one, I think we were the favorites going in, so we kind of had that expectation and a little bit of pressure riding on that. My second one was 2 years later, and that was my first year in Newcastle. And man, that team was an absolute wagon too. But we went down I think we were down 3-0 to Canberra in that semifinal game, scratched our way back, and won on a penalty shot in overtime in the final. Nuts.
Wow.
That was
Insane.
nuts. Yeah, it's a good YouTube clip. Good buddy Brian Bales from Alaska. just buries in overtime. I couldn't even watch, and then it just yard sale the boys flowing over the bench. So yeah, that was a crazy way to win it. And then the following year we went back to back, but I think there was almost like a championship hangover that year, in which the season itself was kind of a roller coaster, up and down, and then we just turned it on in those finals. Overtime goal again in the semifinal, and pretty close game in the final. But a couple of guys had left the North Stars to go to Canberra, which left kind of a salty taste in their mouth, and we were able to beat them in the final, which was pretty awesome.
So is it kind of like a March Madness type of thing where like the 4 teams get together at one host and play over those 2 days, or like kind of like what is that type of tournament like?
Yeah, it's just like Frozen Four.
Okay.
Most years it's in Melbourne, which is like the nicest rink in the country. It's kind of like our Winter Olympic facility too, and it's right in the middle of the city. And Melbourne's an awesome city too. So you win the mug, you take it to the casino that night. So it's an exhausting weekend. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, a lot of beers, and then
usually
you fly home with
work.
it. Yeah. Usually, I think all 3 times I sent a picture of the mug to my boss, and I was like, "See you Tuesday." So and then we stay that Sunday night, fly home, walk in the cup off the plane, through the tarmac, through the airport. It's pretty cool.
Oh man,
That's awesome, man.
I wanted to talk a little bit about just kind of like you're saying, you feel like you're kind of winding down your career here. Is the plan for you personally? Like, do you feel like you're like Australian now? Like you have your kids. Is the plan to like just stay in Australia? Is there any plans to come back to America at any point?
Man, I think about it every day. I miss home every day. I miss my family, miss my friends, and everybody back home. But I think COVID has really solidified, this is probably the place for us right now. My boys started school. What a place to raise a family here. I live, just a walk away from the beach. Some of the nicest beaches. I live in a called Terrigal, Terrigal, if you want to take a look. It's amazing. It's almost like a Malibu, about an hour north of Sydney. So a lot of like doctors and businessmen have their holiday homes here. And I mean, living away from home with my parents, but my element, and they understand. So kind of take it year by year, but I'm able to work and have a pretty good job here. So it'd be difficult to leave that right now.
One thing I noticed, actually, going back to your hockey career, you played in a few all-star games in the AIHL. What's the all-star game like in that league, and just kind of how cool is that to be named an all-star in there, and just what's that type of tournament like?
It's awesome. It's an absolute shit show. But it's like an opportunity to kind of reunite with a lot of the national team buddies too. So there's like a skills day on a Saturday and game on the Sunday, and there's some prize money to be won. And yeah, it's just a whole lot of fun. Usually we'll run like a kids skills clinic at some point too. Yeah, it's one of the best weekends of the year. I missed it this year. Obviously there's no hockey to be played.
So one more thing I wanted to talk about, actually. So as someone coming from the pro ranks, this is something DeSalvo mentioned to us. He says there's with the officials, there's almost like a lack of knowledge for the game. As someone who played in a hockey hotbed like Connecticut and played D3 in the US, do you notice that much at all, or?
Yeah, but I learned you can't really complain about it too much, just because there's not many guys doing it, and it's a job that I would never want to do. Maybe just I'm an absolute snap show when it comes to refereeing. But maybe it just gives the league a bit of character. As a captain, I kind of get to know the guys and, probably say some shit I probably shouldn't have said. But, in the end, the league's pretty cool that after most games, both teams, sometimes the refs will stop in, have a beer about it, kind of move on.
Well, you mentioned that like it's kind of a brotherhood that league. Hey, like all the teams seem to, everybody kind of knows everybody on each team, and it's a very sort of tight knit community, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a community. It's almost like a subculture, but it's certainly helped through the social media platforms to create more of a community and more discussion around the league. But yeah, I mean, you play the same guys year after year, you kind of get to know them a bit too. And there's like, 2 degrees of separation in the hockey world, especially down here. So, if you're a buddy of my buddy, then you're my buddy. So.
And just as you're kind of wrapping up your playing career, do you have a desire to kind of stay involved in hockey at all? Like, is there an interest in like becoming a coach?
Yeah,
or, like,
absolutely. That's the next chapter. I very much look forward to that. I have 2 boys. One turns 7, one turns 2 next month, and there's actually a rink from my house. It shut about just over a year. We didn't think we were getting back, and it reopened last month. So I'm coming on almost like a director in development with a couple expats and down here. And the goal is to grow the game, to build a club, and kind of pay it forward. I'll always be in the game in some type of capacity, but I don't know. Maybe I'll start playing baseball again once I'm done. We'll see.
Almost like a Tim Tebow type of thing. He plays football for a little bit, and then decides to go play baseball for a bit. Just kind of do it all, eh?
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace, but who knows, man? It's so different with family. Your priorities change so much, and I love it though. Don't get me wrong.
And the idea is to get the kiddos playing hockey, get some skates on them sooner rather than later.
Yeah, my oldest has been on the ice for a few years now. He seems to enjoy it, but the last thing I want to do is to really push him into it. So just gonna open the doors, and if he wants to pursue it, awesome. Give him every opportunity to. It gave me so much. Why not pay it forward to my boys? So yeah, I really hope that they stay into it, but I'm really cautious not to push them into it.
What's the minor hockey like out there? When it comes to, you mentioned it, growing the game, kind of developing. How's the development like at the minor levels?
I think it's a bit limited just due to ice time and rink availability, but it seems to be growing. I think every state is a bit different too. We live in New South Wales, so Sydney has kind of 2 groups, one maybe 5, 6, 7 teams in Sydney, and then there's Newcastle, which is where I play out of, which is about 2 hours north of Sydney. So I don't know. I will probably be learning a lot more of that coming up here.
Any closing questions, boys?
I'm good personally. Just want to thank you for coming on, man. You were a riot, and I love learning more about the Australian League. Like the South only played 1 or 2 seasons down there. You had a whole career down there, so it's really cool to know how the league works, the innards of it, and really how fun of a league it sounds to play in.
Well, you know what, man? Once we start playing, maybe touch base again, because we play when there's no hockey going on at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for any hockey to follow or even bet on, I think that's where the league is going, and is online sports betting too. So, I'm always happy to come on and talk some hockey.
Hey man, you just said betting. That's my game right there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Take the overs, boys. Take the overs.
Take the over.
Always.
one last thing I wanted to ask before we finish up here is how much of the game stateside can you follow in Australia? Do you still like follow the NHL pretty well, or is it something that's
Every
kind of
day.
on the back burner?
Every day, dude. No, it's awesome because the games start at about 11 a.m. my time. Right? So
that's
through my work day, I can follow pretty much all the games. What's pretty wild is tomorrow is Super Bowl Monday. Right? So the game starts about 10 a.m. So yeah, I'm not going to work tomorrow.
Well, it has been awesome talking to you.
I have one other. We usually ask all of our guests this. Do you have any sort of like funny, crazy stories from your hockey career that you think people would find entertaining that you want to tell us that you haven't told us already?
Yeah, I guess so. So I alluded to we played up in Surfers Paradise my first year, and this absolute dump of a barn like you've never seen before. So when you go away, you want to win the Saturday game because takes the pressure off the Sunday game, right?
Yeah.
And Surfers Paradise is exactly what it sounds like. It's like a city of surfers, and it's wild. So we win Saturday. The boys get after it on Saturday night. Like stumble to the rink for like a 3:00 game the next day. Legs are just like buckling. Half of them are like, boys, I don't think I can go tonight. And we're like, what the fuck? There's like 7 guys available to play. We get to the rink and they're like, hey guys, there's a crack in the ice. We forfeit. Like, oh, back to the bar. There's some pretty crazy stories. Some I probably wouldn't share publicly, but yeah, man, get me back on. We'll tell some different stories.
Awesome. I know. We're definitely gonna have you back on at some point here.
All right. Yeah, I look forward to it. I appreciate the opportunity to talk some hockey.
Yeah. Always fun talking to some great personalities from around the world. Is there anything you want to plug? Anywhere people can follow you online if they want to follow you on social media or anything?
I think Bertski20 on Instagram. I'm gonna shout out Tommy Powell, Amateur Hour Hockey. Check him out on Instagram too. He's the man, national teammate, and yeah, all around good dude.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and cheers, boys.